Good morning, Year 4. It's Miss Action again. I hope you're all staying safe and well and that you're having a good week so far. This is today's literacy lesson. So you will need your literacy book and your pencil, and the first thing you need to do is open to your next clean double page and write the date, Wednesday the 27th of January at the top. And then leave a line and write your learning objective, which today is to plan ideas. And then leave a line and write your subheading SPAG for SPAG Starter. So pause the video so that you can write those 3 things into your book. So for our SPAG recap, we are looking at questions. So as we're going to use questions in our campaign, we need to make sure we can word and punctuate them properly. I know we've done a lot on questions already, but I just wanted to be sure. So, what punctuation mark do we need? We all know we need a question mark. When can we use question marks? Have a think. We can use question marks at the end of a question. We all know that, don't we? So, your first challenge, choose mild, spicy or hot and put the question mark in the correct place. So mild is, where do you think animals should live? Spicy, how would you feel being locked in a cage? And hot, are animals looked after in zoos? Zoos, said the activist. So pause the video and have a go. Make sure you write which challenge you do, write out the sentence and put the question mark in the correct place. So pause the video now to do that. Okay, let's go through the answers then. So for mild, our question mark needs to go at the end of the sentence. Where do you think animals should live? That's our question. For spicy, how would you feel being locked in a cage? Again, at the end of the sentence. For hot, slightly trickier, are animals looked after in zoos, said the activist. Doesn't need to go at the end of the sentence, it needs to go at the end of the speech because the activist has asked the question. So it needs to go there. So your book should look a bit like this. So you've written which task you did and written it out. Give it a tick if you got it correct. Okay, so how can we make this sentence into a question? It says, that is a big lion over there. So I'm telling you that's a big lion over there. Pause the video so you can have a think about how you would make this into a question. Okay, so to make this a question, we need to rearrange some of the words. I'm going to start with is. I'm asking, so is that, so we need a, and it's a big lion over there. That is how I would reword this. You might have found a different way. Your next challenge is to rearrange the sentence into a question. So mild says, you think visiting the zoo is fun. Spicy, animals are safe in the zoo. And hot, animals shouldn't be trapped in cages. Can you pause the video, write which challenge you're doing, write and rewrite the sentence into a question. For mild, your question could have been, do you think visiting the zoo is fun? For spicy, your question would have been, are animals safe in the zoo? And for hot, your question should have been, should animals be trapped in cages? So your book should look like this with both of your tasks and tick them if you got them correct. Okay, so we have been working towards our campaigns. We've been learning lots of different ideas. Last week you thought about your own opinion, and this week we critiqued some examples So today we are going to plan our ideas for our campaign. Okay, so we're going to be bringing them all of these thoughts and ideas all together so that we can start thinking about what we want to include in our own campaign. The first thing I want you to do is pause the video and just recap your own opinion. Do you think zoos should be kept open? You might want to tell an adult, or just think about it. Just think about what your own opinion is. So pause the video so you can have a think. Okay, so now you should have fresh in your memory your own opinion and what your campaign is going to be about. In your pack, there will be a planning sheet. You need to take this out because this is the work, this is what you are going to be doing today. What you need to do is find a way to stick this in your book. If you've got a glue stick, don't worry if you can't stick it in, it can just go into the book. But this is how your page should look if you can stick it in. Okay. In our planning sheet, we have got the title, campaign, should animals be kept in zoos. We have our introduction to my campaign, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3. Questions to persuade, because we're trying to persuade, remember that's the purpose of our writing. Quotes from people, you might want to include those, and then our conclusion. I am going to go through each of these individually to give you some ideas and help you through it. And you can have a go at the same time or at the end or as we go through, whichever you prefer. So you can either finish watching the whole video and then have a go at your task, or you can pause as we go. Okay? So the first thing we are going to look at is the introduction. So I need to introduce myself. So my name is Miss Atkin. That's who I am. Like in our example yesterday, I really liked that they told us they had been researching zoos, so I might want to include that in my campaign too. So in my introduction, I'm also going to write, I have been researching zoos. That's something I want to include in my introduction. My introduction also needs to outline what I'm campaigning for. So I am going to campaign to keep animals in captivity. So I'm going to cross out the stick, I don't want that. So I'm going to campaign to keep them in captivity. I think animals should stay in the zoo. Then I'm going to think about my first reason why I want that. So I think that animals are happier there in the zoo. I also think that they are protected and looked after at the zoo. I think they're looked after well. I might also talk about another thing I've noticed about zoos is that in their enclosures are like their natural environment. So they live happily in their enclosures, which are like their natural or in their habitat. So those are the things that I think first when I think why I want to keep animals in the zoo. Okay, so that is my plan for my introduction. The next thing I'm going to plan is paragraph 1. So this paragraph is going to be the reasons for my argument. So what do I think and why? Where do I think animals should live? And how do animals feel here? So I think that animals should be in the zoo. So my reasons are going to be why I think animals should be in the zoo. So in my opinion, they are safer Remember, it's only a plan, so you don't have to do paragraphs. You can do sentences or keywords. They're safer and they're fed healthy foods. That's something I know about them. I know animals are looked after if they are ill or injured. That's something we learnt about when we were researching. What else do I think? If they are ill or injured, they can be cured as well, can't they? Because the zoologists are trained. So sickness can be cured. That's one of the really good things about zoos. Like I said in my introduction, they're protected, aren't they? So I think animals are protected because, so I might think of a reason why, because I have to explain myself, don't I? Because, what is my reason for thinking this? I think that because they prevent extinction, don't they, zoos? Because zoos prevent extinction. So in this one, in paragraph 1, you need to think about lots of the reasons for your argument. Don't use them all because you'll come back to some of them later. But these are some of my first reasons for my argument, okay? So now I'm going to plan paragraph 2. You don't need to rush through this as quickly as me. You can spend loads and loads of time on this. Get all of your ideas down. I can't wait to see them. So, paragraph 2 is reasons against my argument. So last week you looked at empathizing with other people. So you might have written a sentence about, I understand that other people might think the opposite to you. So what is the different opinion that someone will have and why do they think that? And you might think, how do they feel about zoos? So I understand that other people might think animals belong in the wild. That's what they might think. Other people might think animals belong in the wild. Why might they think that? Because it's their natural environment, isn't it? We learnt about that, their natural environment. So I think in the zoo, animals can live in a similar place, but others think that they don't get to live in their natural environment. Also, in the wild, animals can hunt for their own food. They don't have to be fed by the zookeepers, do they? They can roam free. Also, it says, how do they feel about zoos? They might feel that zoos trap animals or that they lock animals away. They might think that they don't treat them very nicely. But I'm going to say at the end, however, the wild can be dangerous for some animals, because if an animal is poorly, it might not be safe in the wild. So those are some of my reasons against my argument, what other people might think. I've also put a little sentence in the end to show that I am arguing the opposite. Yeah? So next to plan is paragraph 3. So this is another paragraph of reasons for my argument. So for me, it will be reasons why I want zoos to stay open and why I want animals to stay in zoos. So this is going to be some even more reasons to support your argument. So the questions here are, what is another pro for your argument and why? What else have you learned from researching? and what are animals' habitats like here. So you might talk about the habitats that it's from. So I strongly believe that animals should stay in the zoo. That's what I strongly believe. You might strongly believe that animals shouldn't stay in the zoo. So I strongly believe that animals should stay in the zoo. Why? What are my reasons this time? So I think that you can learn at the zoo. So visitors can learn, I might say. Can learn at the zoo. They can learn about animals. They can learn about habitat. They can learn about what they eat, and maybe they can learn about the history of the animals. That might be some things that we found from researching. I also think that the zoologists can teach us. They can teach us all about extinction, because that is what zoos are there to help and protect animals from extinction. So zoologists can teach us about extinction. So we can learn about that as well. I might say, what are the animals' habitats like here? So the habitats replicate. So they're the same as, they try and make it so that the habitats are like the wild, so they're the same as the wild, but they're safer. That's one of the things about zoos. Animals are safer. They're not going to be hunted by other animals. I think in the zoo, animals can be happy. And when we were doing our research, we found out that animals have fun at the zoo and they're not bothered by the visitors. You might also want to explain more about these things. So what exactly might zoologists teach us? Why would we want to learn? We want to learn because we want to know about these animals. We want to find out more about them, the ones that we're visiting. So this paragraph is more reasons for your argument. So reasons people should believe you and they should agree with you. The next thing we're going to look at is questions to persuade. So we could include these in any of our paragraphs to persuade our readers to believe the same as us. So I've started some of them. So have you considered, what might I ask them what they've considered? Have you considered that animals can be happier? That animals can be happier at the zoo. Some animals might prefer the zoo than the wild. They might really not want to go into the wild. That might be one of the questions that I want to ask to change their mind. Did you know that the wild is dangerous for some animals? Some animals won't survive in the wild, which is why we need zoos. Another question I think I could ask, maybe, is did you know that zoos work hard because zoos prevent extinction? So that is one thing that I might ask as well. So this one is questions you might ask someone to change their mind, to make them agree with you. The next thing is quotes from people. So we might include these to support our argument or to go against it. So what would a zoologist say? They might say, I am well trained to ensure animals are cared for and are happy. That might support my argument. That's one of the things that I think the zoologist might say. An activist. What might an activist say? They might argue and say animals belong in their natural habitat. So this one might go in my second paragraph. So quotes from people are things that people might say to you to argue against you or to support your argument. The last thing we need to plan is our conclusion. So this is going to round off our campaign. So in conclusion, I think that, and summarise all of your points. So I think that animals should stay in the zoo. That's what I think. I need to give reasons though, because we need to justify ourselves throughout all of our campaign. We need to justify ourselves. So, because they are protected, or I might do a list here. They are protected, have fun, and people can learn about them. So that summarises some of my points. I might put a different point in, so I might say, although, use a conjunction, although some may say animals should be in the wild, it can, because I've put this in part of my campaign, it can be very dangerous for ill animals. So the conclusion just wants to summarise your point. So what do you want to include in this? Okay, your planning is going to be much more detailed and much better than mine. I've just quickly gone through it. Okay, so if you haven't planned already, your task is now to go and plan each of these sections. You can come back and look at each bit as I go through it, or you can, now you've watched it all, you can just do it all, or you might have already done it. Once you have completed your plan and you are happy with it, your challenge is to think about, are you persuasive? Can you make a list of the persuasive features or words you're going to use in your campaign to convince people? So one of the things I said is questions. I'm going to use questions to try and convince people. Once you have done that, you might want to send a picture to us at the email, or we will also see it on Friday to have a look through your plan. Okay, so if you haven't already, go ahead and start your plan. I can't wait to see them.